Well, just before we speak to Dame Andrea Jenkins, have a listen to this. It is almost 100 days since this government has been in power, and this is how we get treated and talked to by the Prime Minister, Sir Keir Starmer.
And just on to Gray, on her position, casement has apparently been causing divisions. Can you offer some clarity on that?
Yeah, that's complete nonsense. So I hope that's clear enough. Change Britain, we must change ourselves. We need to clean up politics. No more VIP fast lanes, no more kickbacks for colleagues, no more revolving doors between government and the companies they regulate. I will restore standards in public life with a total crackdown on cronyism. It's very important to me that the rules are followed. I've always said that. I said that before the election. I've reinforced it after the election. We've prepared this party for government. We've prepared all of our departments for government. If we are privileged to come in to serve our country, it will be public service for me, as it always has been, not self-entitlement. I call again for an immediate ceasefire in Gaza, the return of the sausages.
I mean, what can you say? How useless is that? And how duplicitous and how ridiculous. All of those statements that he's making about a return to public service, no more cronyism, absolutely ready for government, and of course, releasing of the sausages. I mean, he's supposed to be the man that's running our country. Sir Keir Starmer, the Prime Minister, he's supposed to be a barrister. He's supposed to be capable, at the very least, of speaking the truth. I don't think he knows what the truth is. Let's talk to Dame Andrea Jenkins. Andrea, very good morning to you.
Good morning.
I can't believe some of those things that I've just seen. I mean, we've been working on this for a while. We've dug out some clips from the past. I mean, the recent past as well, literally in the last year. Things that he said about what he would do if he was in government, things that he said that he would do as soon as he got in, you know, get rid of the cronyism, the nasty Tories, you know, he won't do any of that. And, I mean, this is where we are, 100 days in. I don't think I've ever seen a worse Prime Minister, do you?
No. I mean, it's clearly a barefaced liar, I'm afraid.
Yeah. I mean, yeah.
I remember tweeting before the election, get ready to face 5 years of hard labour. Right. And it is like hard labour. I mean, they attack aspiration. Look what they're doing with the private schools. Look what we're hearing about the capital gains tax. And yet they do it while there's such cronyism, there's such nepotism, and also on top of that, they're wasting billions of taxpayers' money on this carbon capture, on something that just is proven not to work when it's previously been done.
Yeah, exactly right. And when it comes to, you know, the cronyism, even as he was saying, we'll put an end to cronyism, the thing that gets me is that he had already got a load of free stuff from Lord Ali. He'd already had 100,000 quid's worth of money from him for his campaign in 2020 to become leader. He already knew that he was wearing glasses paid for by Lord Ali. He already was wearing a suit that was paid for by Lord Ali. I don't know if he paid for his boxer shorts or his underpants, but, you know, he was standing there saying the end of cronyism, even as he was wearing Lord Ali's clothes.
It's just unbelievable, Mike, isn't it, that anybody can be so barefaced like that? And, I mean, what I'm worried about as well is the trade union reforms. They are also going to reverse what Conservatives did in government. They're going to have a lot more powers. Yeah. And it's also raised so much more money to the trade unions, which then goes on to the Labour Party. Sorry, my dog's just running.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. I mean, suddenly now it appears that they're going to be raising even more money via the trade unions. But even with the trade unions on board, they still apparently have to go and seek money elsewhere. We've got that hedge fund that they borrowed, or they were given £4 million by in the Caribbean on in a tax haven, a hedge fund that, by the way, invests in things that they supposedly are against, like fossil fuels, like arms manufacturing, and many other things. And they're just completely hypocritical, aren't they?
Yes, I mean, they're steeped in hypocrisy. We saw that really from, well, quite early on, didn't we, within the first week or two. Sorry, we're packing up the London house at the moment, that's why. Right, shut up, Kevin. Right, sorry about this.
No, it's fine.
And then, as I said as well, though, I think that if you look into Angela Rayner as well, you do a montage on her, I think you'll see the same level of hypocrisy, actually, Mike.
Well, I'm glad you mentioned Angela Rayner, because we've got a little clip of her talking about the latest scandal, which is still another one that won't go away. And this is the Yvette Cooper scandal, who's failed to tell us that she got a free ticket to go and see Taylor Swift because it was given to her husband, who happens to be a former Labour politician, of course, Ed Balls, and then also failing to so far admit or to deny whether or not she leaned on the police to give what's called a blue light escort at high speed, saved only normally for the royal family and heads of state, to Taylor Swift and her mum so that they could get back to the hotel from Wembley. Here's what Angela Rayner had to say.
It was an absolute operational decision by the police in the context of threats that the singer had had in Europe. So it was a purely I absolutely dispute that somehow that this was in any way connected to whether somebody went to a concert or not. It was an operational matter for the police, and it was about security in regards to the threats that were active across Europe to make sure that singer was able to deliver those concerts, which brought in a huge amounts of investment and money into our economy, including those small businesses that need that support. It was a policing matter, not an issue for politicians.
Well, she says that, but of course yesterday, the day before that rather, Lisa Nandy said that she didn't even think Yvette Cooper was at the concert. So, you know, which is it? Which side of the Labour Party story do we want to believe?
I mean, look, we don't even afford Prince Harry this, which I agree we shouldn't afford Prince Harry this, but we do it for billionaire celebrities, American celebrities.
Yeah.
It just stinks, actually, Mike, and they're all getting free tickets. I'm sorry. People are struggling out there and they just don't care what it looks like.
No.
It's a strong case of do as I say, not as I do with the Labour Party.
It is absolutely staggering. Meanwhile, of course, we've got David Lammy now, who's apparently spent 10,000 quid redecorating the Foreign Office. Now, I know the Foreign Office quite well. I've been in there a couple of times. Yes. It doesn't look to me like it needs redecorating. It's got a beautiful frieze as you walk in. It's got an incredible, you know, majestic staircase. I don't know what he's doing. I don't know if he's painting it black or something. What's he doing?
I mean, look, I had a ministerial office my brief time in government, and they're you know, pretty good offices, and you just personalise it by bringing your family photos, things like this.
Right.
You never think of decorating it, especially when it's coming straight out of the taxpayers' coffers. It's so wrong.
No, exactly right. Now, I'm going to do something which I wouldn't normally do, Andrea, but I know that you're a woman of some substance, so I want you to have a look at this. I mean, Boris Johnson's been out doing loads and loads of interviews, bombastic as ever, you know, popular as ever, making the usual kind of, you know, cringe-making interviewers wondering what he's going to say next. But he was interviewed by Steve Bartlett, right, who's one of the guys, I think, from Dragon's Den, who's got a podcast which is watched by millions and millions of people. And he got him to talk about his family, I think, for the first time. I just want you to have a look at this, because you know Boris quite well. Have a look at how he talks and how he responds. I don't think we've ever seen anything like this, Boris.
We were in Somerset, and my father said that we all had to go and up by the gate towards the engine shed. So we went and stood by the gate towards the engine shed, and we were told this, you know, sad news.
What did he say?
I don't remember exactly, but I was cross and said, you know, so why did you have us then? Because I thought, well, you know, as you know, I think it is upsetting, and kids take it upon themselves, right? And so they do think that there must be some fault or mistake in themselves, and that isn't true. I mean, you know, it's very important for kids not to blame themselves for these things. So I think that. That's, you know, back to the point I was making earlier on with you. I think, you know, you do need to feed your self-esteem, and you need to get yourself back up again. And so work was my way of doing it.
I think that's quite a remarkable insight into Boris Johnson's, you know, life, because he's, you know, everybody makes fun of him. Everybody goes, he's just happy-go-lucky. He's, you know, he goes around sleeping with loads of women and he doesn't really care about anything. I mean, that is about as emotional as I think I've ever seen him, talking about, you know, his father's divorce from his mother, and obviously clearly reflecting on his own life and his own behaviour in a way.
But Boris and Carrie are such a lovely family with their children. You know, I've been to their house. I've seen him on the floor playing with the little ones, or, you know, running up to them if they fall over and hurt themselves. And I mean, I was at his book launch this week, and first thing he whispered, sorry, my 7-year-old is helping me pack. The first thing he whispered in my ear was, how's employment? Have you got sorted with a job yet? I mean, that's a caring friend, isn't it?
Yeah.
And I also recall when I was losing my mum and my sister was in a coma because she had a reaction to the COVID jab. Both Boris and Carrie contacted me, and they went to a church and lit a candle and said a prayer and sent me the pictures of the candles, praying for my mum and my sister. I mean, you don't get many politicians like that, to be honest, Mike. They are both really lovely, and he's actually, it's shown his vulnerability there. He is very sensitive as well. Right.
Yeah, I mean, I've never seen it. I don't know him well. You know, I've only met him a couple of times very briefly, but, you know, I think that's a really interesting insight into the way that he does have a private life. And I think sometimes we forget that some politicians, not all, do actually feel pain, do actually feel, you know, love, do actually act like human beings. And maybe that's what makes him different, because you look at Keir Starmer, and I don't know much about Keir Starmer,
like
but
a robot, isn't he?
He doesn't. Yeah, he is absolutely like a robot. And he doesn't come across as a man who's particularly warm or particularly human.
I mean, when Boris came to my constituency a few times, I remember one occasion he came to a local factory and he went round every person and shook their hand, and he just really engages with people. He is the kind of person you'd go to a pub with and have a drink with and have some banter, have a laugh. Sorry, I think he's had too much sugar. And then on top of that, I also think that the mainstream media demonise Boris and also Trump as well.
Yes.
I mean, look, I've done the BBC, you know, the Question Times or the big shows, and they just get demonised terribly. And I think
house is going to be on TV.
Yes, right. I can.
And listen, I can see. Andrea. Listen, I can see you've got stuff going on there. Let's leave it there. It's great to talk to you. Good luck with the move, and you know they'll still be there at the other end, I'm afraid, once you get there.